The Israeli army says it is preparing for a ground assault on Hamas in the Gaza Strip. So far, tens of thousands of troops have been deployed to the border with Gaza. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says that they will crush and destroy Hamas, which launched the attack on Israel on Saturday. Well, the US Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin is in Israel and speaking alongside his Israeli counterpart at a joint news conference in Tel Aviv. He condemned Hamas, which he regards as a terrorist organisation.
Now, this is no time for neutrality or for false equivalence or for excuses for the inexcusable. There is never any justification for terrorism. And that's especially true after this rampage by Hamas. And anyone who wants lasting peace and security for this region must condemn and isolate Hamas. Hamas does not speak for the Palestinian people or their legitimate hopes for dignity, security, and statehood and peace alongside Israel. As a former commander of Central Command, the deliberate cruelty of Hamas vividly reminds me of ISIS.
Right, let's get some analysis now on the Israeli military operation with Shashank Joshi. He's defence editor at The Economist magazine here in London. Thank you very much for coming on the programme.
Good afternoon.
So this idea of a ground invasion soon, firstly, do you think it is coming soon? And what are the chances of achieving its aim of destroying Hamas?
Well, yesterday I would have said to you this ground invasion was probably imminent. Today, following the Israeli call to evacuate the north of Gaza and move this very large population to the south, which is going to take time, I'm less sure. I think the Israeli government and military seems to think it will take a couple of weeks at the very least, and it's unclear to me whether they will go in until that's done, given that they want to be able to operate on the ground with as few civilians as possible. Urban warfare is always extremely messy, destructive, very harmful on civilians, and the IDF would prefer to operate in extremely dense, built-up places like Gaza City without civilians. So I suspect we will see a ground invasion, but I think it will take time to come. And in response to your second question, well, the stated Israeli objective is to destroy Hamas. Destroying a terrorist group that has occupied a urban area for 15, 16 years and has built 500 kilometers of tunnels underneath it and is embedded in the social, economic and political fabric of this territory is not easy. And I suspect if previous ground wars in Gaza took a couple of weeks, we're going to see an Israeli military involvement here that goes on for months. And if it really is going to obliterate Hamas, as Israeli officials have talked about, we could be in for a commitment of years, which, of course, is a much bigger proposition.
So an operation lasting years, potentially?
Well, it entirely depends on the Israeli political leadership and how they see their aims. If the aim is to make sure there is no Hamas left, that Hamas cannot reassert itself once the Israeli army withdraws from Gaza, that there is no tunnel capability, no rockets, no command centers, no senior leadership, none of these things. You know, let's not pretend this is anything other than an enormous open-ended campaign that I think will take a long time. It is not something that can be done in weeks.
OK, that's pretty sobering. What about the idea that, for two reasons, there may well be a large number of civilians there still? One, that people simply can't move. We've been covering the difficulty in the logistics. And two, we've heard from people there who simply say they won't move. They won't leave their homes. So given there will, in all likelihood, still be civilians in the area, does that change any of the calculations?
Well, Israel will be aware that the greater the civilian casualties, the greater the impact on their international reputation, including in Europe and particularly in America, where they need American political support. And I would just say, although America has has given Israel its full backing now, we just heard that clip from Lloyd Austin, it is worth casting your mind back 20 years to the Israeli operation in the West Bank when they went in with massive force under Ariel Sharon. And even back then, the George W. Bush administration, although initially supportive, eventually told Israel to halt those actions because of the cost on the Palestinian people. So setting aside the legality and the laws of war around this, the political and diplomatic constraints on Israel, I think, are going to be pretty high as this operation goes on.
OK. Shashar Jangshi, thank you very much for your analysis. Thank you.
Thanks.